everyone, and welcome to another lesson. In the previous lesson, we started talking about math methods in JavaScript, where we were able to examine the math.run method that ran a number to its nearest integer, and we passed in some numbers as a data to see how it ran them up, and then we were able to see how it works with those numbers, just like the way we do rounding off in traditional mathematics. So the same way and the same pattern is what JavaScript employs with the math.round method in order to round number to their nearest integer. So that was what we talked about in the last lesson. So moving on from that, we are going to also be looking at another method, two different other methods of working with the math objects in this lesson. So the number one method is the math.seal method. The math.seal method returns the value of x rounded up to its nearest integer. So that x simply represents a number. So that is the math.seal. So it will return a value of a number rounded up to its nearest integer. And then we also have math.floor method, which will return the value of the number rounded down to its nearest integer. So you can see that the two methods here are just like word and opposite. One rounded up to its nearest integer, while the other one rounded down to its nearest integer. So without further ado, let's just look at what this will do in our code editor and how it will attempt to round up each of these numbers to its nearest integer. So the first one is 4.9. So I'll employ the method I used in the previous video by just passing in the method, the data to the method inside this piece. So math.seal. So the first number is 4.9. Now you can see it rounded this up to 5, and that is because it's return the value of the number rounded up to its nearest integer, because its job is to do rounding up, then to round up to the nearest integer. So you can see this. So I change this now 4.7. It's still 5, 4.4. Even 4.4 now. During the last lesson, when we used the math.round, you can see that 4.4 remained as 4 and not 5. But as for math.seal, so it rounded it up to its nearest integer. And so 4.4 with math.seal is 5 and not 4. What if I put 4.2? 4.2 is 5. Now, what if I use a negative number? Minus 4.2. And this is now minus 4. So only when I use a negative number, we need to round it down. So which means that this actually is true. It's used to round numbers up to the nearest integer. So the example I just used, now the numbers, I got them from here. They are not any magic. So 4.9, 4.7. So this is where I got them from. So moving on from that, let's talk about the math.floor method. So if math.seal, the top value of the number rounded up to its nearest integer, the math.floor on its own returns the value of the number rounded down to its nearest integer. So let's change the method name and then pass in the same values that we did for the math.seal. So this is going to be math.floor. The first number is 4.9. And now you can see for math.floor, it is rounding down the number to the nearest integer. So 4.9 is 4. Now what about 4.7? It's still 4. What about 4.4? It's still 4. What about 4.2? It's still 4. And now let's try the negative number of minus 4.2. Fantastic. Now, can you see this? When you pass in a negative number for the math.floor method, it automatically rounded it up to an integer higher than the number. But when you give it a positive number, then it will maintain the rounding down to its nearest integer. But in the case of math.c, there's no matter positive or negative, so it will maintain the order. But as for math.floor, look at what happened. Minus 12.2 was rounded up to minus 5. So I hope you can see this. If you have a lower number like minus 3.0, let's see what happens. But what if like minus 2.7? So it's rounded this up also to minus 4. So this is how the math.floor method works in JavaScript. So in this lesson now, we show how the math.c method works. Math.c will return the value of the number rounded up to its nearest integer. But math.floor on its own return the value of the number rounded down to its nearest integer. So that is the difference between these two methods. And moving on from this, in the next lesson, we are going to be looking at another two extra methods for math objects in JavaScript. I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, take care.